So seeing the Avengers come together, it was a young MCU, and I honestly can say I wasn't as big of a fan of comic book movies as I am right now, but I was still so excited for this movie.
Gosh, I'll never forget. I'll never forget the time I had. I was in Florida at the time when I saw that movie. I went to a midnight show, and I had so much fun. I got out of there at 3:30 in the morning and went straight to work, and I was buzzing all weekend. I saw the movie 3 times opening weekend. I've never done anything like that before or since, and I absolutely love Avengers.
I won't touch Barton, not until I make him kill you. Slowly, intimately, in every way he knows you fear. And then he'll wake just long enough to see his good work, and when he screams, I'll split his skull. This is my bargain, you mewling quim.
Going into the movie, I wasn't sure if Loki was the right choice for the villain because he seemed a little small scale for the whole team of Avengers. But after doing some research, I guess he was the villain that actually brought them together in the comics, so that was a cool little Easter egg. But aside from that, he ended up being the right choice because how the movie ends up shaking out and how you were able to have him have a personal relationship with one of the Avengers. And it wasn't just Loki, it was obviously the Chitauri army and everything that came with it.
I love that they made Loki the villain in this movie, and because the way he sort of, accidentally caused this team to come together is by, trying to incite the Hulk to tear down the helicarrier in a fight. And that's what they did in the comics way back in the 60s, and it's very well done. I love that. I love having Loki as the villain in this movie, and I'm glad they did it because you still carry over, like I said, that conflict between him and Thor carries over, and it still carries over to this day, and it was very well done. And I think that they knew what they had in Tom Hiddleston, and they knew they had to use him again, and what a great way to bring him in to face off against each of these characters.
As far as Hawkeye's use in this movie, I actually didn't really care for it. I wasn't a big fan of the whole mind control and he gets taken over, but I think Jeremy Renner played his role really well, that it actually made up for the for me, almost like laziness of using his character.
Hey, hold on. How is this now about me? I'm sorry, isn't everything?
I thought humans were more evolved than this.
Excuse me, did we come to your planet and blow stuff up?
Treat your champions with
You're
such
not my
mistrust.
Are you boys really that naive? S.H.I.E.L.D. monitors potential threats.
Captain America's on the threat
We all are.
There's a great number of things that are fantastic about this movie, like action shots, characters, the way that the villain turned out. Like, there's so many good things about this movie. But the best thing this movie was able to do, and this is total kudos to Joss Whedon, was break the characters down in the second act. The fact that these characters were ripped away, they were deconstructed, the team was pretty much ripped apart and then brought back together for a certain reason. That is why this movie succeeds at the highest of levels.
Coming out of the movie, he doesn't show up until 45 minutes in, but it's Thor. Thor's my guy, man. I was a Thor guy. I was always a Thor fan as a kid. But coming off of that first movie, I loved it. Loved Hemsworth as Thor, and he makes this big grand entrance into the movie where he just, because we don't know how is he going to show up, and he just lightning strikes and he lands on top of the Quinjet, rips it open, yanks Loki out of there, and takes off. And it's oh man, it's a great scene. And boy, one of my favorite moments of the movie is when Cap and Hawkeye and Black Widow are trying to fight off all these Chitauri, and all of a sudden you just see these 3 bolts of lightning just shock 3 of them, and Thor lands right there with a thud with his hammer, and I love that scene. I love Thor in this movie.
It's hard to argue against Captain America in this situation because he's my favorite. I think that the way they brought him into modern times couldn't have done any more perfectly. The way that he kind of slowly progressed into becoming the team leader in this movie, it's hard to argue against him. It really is. But I really, really enjoy Thor in this movie. I think that after the way that Kenneth Branagh handled him in his origin movie, I think Joss Whedon stepped up the game and did something really good with him. He had a couple quick one-liners that worked out really well. But the fact that Loki was his brother, he was the villain in this movie, it was very close to home for him. And the way they kind of used him as far as emotions go, and then as well as action, He is definitely one of my favorite parts of this movie.
I'm still gonna have to say that Captain America is my favorite, just because, just the way Chris Evans plays him, it's just so unique. It's just like Robert Downey Jr. and Tony Stark. They're just, these two characters and actors just play so well together that I just don't know if anyone really, for me, can ever beat Captain America as the best Avenger.
Coming out of my first viewing of Avengers, it's hard to say, but I would have to say my favorite Avenger was the Hulk, honestly. How could you not be so excited about the Hulk at this time? Mark Ruffalo's first performance as the Hulk knocked it out of the park, and his action scenes are incredible. Definitely the best action scenes we've ever seen the Hulk be a part of. And I just think the humanity that Mark Ruffalo brought added a lot to that. And also that moment when he takes off his shirt and says, "I'm always angry," and punches the Chitauri whale in the face. I can't get that out of my head.
I think that the whole Hawkeye thing was kind of a letdown for me. If I'm being picky, I hated Agent Coulson dying. I would have loved to see him go further on. His use was obviously warranted in his death, but between that and the whole Hawkeye, I kind of felt Hawkeye was cheated out of the movie a little bit by making him mind-controlled bad guy.
Some of it is a little, again, that's one of the complaints about Age of Ultron. Not this bad, but there's some parts where it's a little too jokey. It's a little too Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Some moments. This movie's enjoyable from beginning to end. So, not too much, but some of the dialogue, like I said, some of the more extra jokey parts.
I think this might be the same for a lot of people, but the one thing I remember from the Avengers is the end battle scene in New York. But for me, it's small moments within the battle. There's so many things going on, and probably my favorite moment is when Cap's on the ground fighting some aliens, and Iron Man flies down and he shoots his laser off of Cap's shield and it hits another Chitauri alien. That is incredible. I remember watching that at home one time, and I just straight up got the chills because that is so awesome.
My favorite moment from the Avengers is the scene where all of them get together in the circle and that camera just pans around them and you just see everyone in their fight stance ready to go. I think, honestly, that's one of the most synonymous scenes in the MCU. It gets used a lot in, like, old trailers, and just, it's something that we're always going to remember. That's the beginning of the Avengers.
Yeah, I had Avengers at number 2 on my list. I thought I had Iron Man. I was wrong. I had Iron Man number 3 and Avengers number 2. That's about right. I think, again, it's one of those movies where it could easily be number 1 on anyone's list. It could be number 1 on anyone's all comic movie list. So number 2, I think it's the perfect spot because the film at number 1 is better.
I honestly don't ever think we'll ever see a reaction like we did to the Avengers again. Like, this is the first movie like its kind that we have ever seen, and it succeeded at the highest of levels. And I remember personally coming into that theater. I remember I was with my best friend Shaw. We went and saw the movie in IMAX, and we were absolutely blown away by this movie. The fact that it was able to accomplish what it did in bringing these characters together for the first time ever was something that we may never see again. Now, sure, all these universes are trying to do team-up movies and whatnot, but like I said, this is the first movie we've ever seen a handful of superheroes come together to fight one cause. We've seen a couple partnerships, maybe 3 people there and there, but this has 6 characters. 6 major Marvel characters coming together, and they all got the majority of the screen time. And they were all done well. Yes, the Hawkeye thing is whatever, but in the New York scene, he's awesome. He's freaking awesome in the New York scene. And so the buzz around this movie, I don't know if we'll ever see it again as far as anticipation, as far as excitement, because I remember feeling a certain way after that movie. I'm sure a lot of people do, and sure, maybe we'll get that after Infinity War, but for the first time ever, like there's nothing like that in the universes.